I talk to really dumb people today. So.
I'm all you got. It's me and Patty. I don't know.
I talked to Jordan Fatty.
Maybe just make more friends. Jordan, God love him. I think he's borderline ID.
I haven't met Jordan yet.
He's real nice.
Did you invite him to Woodstock?
No, but I can.
You should. It'd be
He
fun.
is the Sheik world champion now.
I don't know if my sheep's going to go that high.
Yeah, it was like a 20.
Yeah, it's not that good.
That
It's just at Worlds,
Yeah.
so he'll be fine. Oh, this is so... I forgot how good these are.
Yeah. Are we actually
Delightful. Oh yeah, I started recording because I figure we'll use some of this potentially as like an intro,
Fantastic.
or I'll edit it out. So if you got any hate speech in you, get it out now.
Get it out now.
Cordell, there are going to be words you won't like. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's Jeremy Futrell,
Matt McDougal with our guest.
And I'm Jerry Witzman.
and this is fantastic.
Sure.
So Jerry Witzman is a masters athlete, a coach, a husband, a dad, and an all-around warm and fuzzy human.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A little excess on the fuzzy.
Yeah. You're fuzzier than you are warmer right now, but that's saying something. So, yeah. Jerry, is there anything you wanted to get out of the way before we start just asking you a bunch of questions?
No, I'm really excited about seeing what this is all about with you guys starting this podcast together. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be fun.
Fun is the right thing it'll be.
It may not be that informative. It may not be useful.
Yeah.
And 7 people may think it's good. But we'll take it.
3 of them are right here.
Yes.
4. Let's count Cordell.
So if you had to like write a bio line for yourself, if you were to give people a brief overview of yourself, geared more toward the Highland Games, but whatever else you think people should know about you, you know, the back page of your life story, what would that read?
Well, mainly focused towards Highland Games as my main hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I got into it about 15 years ago. My mother-in-law called us up and she saw it on PBS and told us to change the channel. And so we looked at it, and my wife looked at me because I was doing all kinds of other sports. Said, "You could probably do that." Of course, I think I weighed about 200 pounds at the time. And then I looked up some stuff and figured some stuff out. Bought some videos from Ryan Vieira, the VP Productions, and started training with kettlebells and all kinds of stuff, and showed up at my first game. Didn't feel completely unprepared, but I really got to meet a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so the camaraderie of the whole sport is what drew me in.
Cool.
And then as I got to know more people and meet other coaches and trainers, or even just pick their brains, where they would guide me a little bit, and then I could turn around and try and help guide other people. So then I turned more into still a thrower, but more of a coach.
All right. Awesome. I love how many dated references were in that.
Yeah.
It was on PBS. I had to change the channel. You didn't even have to say 15 years ago. We could have... No, that's great, though.
Just as a fun point, this means that Thor has been throwing for longer than Jerry.
Yeah.
Thor Gilfelson?
Yeah, he's been throwing for 17 years, if the numbers are to be believed.
Yep.
So if you've been doing it for 15,
You still
Thor,
have 2 years,
what are you
and
doing?
then you can go pro.
Yeah.
You're still on track.
Let's see. I could follow in the footsteps of Thor and Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also.
Justin's also had... How many
Justin's
years
been
did
throwing
Justin
a long
have?
time too, right?
You didn't go back on...
I'll tell you right now.
Tell me.
We'll continue. I'll
figure
come
this
back
out.
to this.
All right, so you said you were doing other sports at the time. What else were you doing before you transitioned?
I played a lot of competitive volleyball and a lot of competitive racquetball.
Competitive racquetball.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who has uttered that sentence to me, that they used to play competitive racquetball. That's interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I started racquetball when I was 15 years old,
Oh, cool.
back in the mid-'80s.
And how old are you now for our listeners?
I'll be 54 in a few weeks.
Fantastic. And he doesn't look a day over 41, ladies and gentlemen. He's aging like fine wine.
Do you think there's been any carryover between racquetball and like the
Every
serving
sport
style?
I found carryover.
Yeah.
Just fundamental agility,
Mhm.
I think, is the biggest carryover from anything else. If you're decent at a few sports, then it'll carry over into the Highland Games.
Yeah, whatever makes a good athlete makes a good athlete.
Correct.
However you translate it. It may not make you great, but
Justin is 13 years in now.
13. All right.
Okay.
So he's just behind Jerry.
Yeah.
Justin is also 54 now. How old, I got to find out how old Justin is. I keep forgetting we use my phone for this, and I was like, I'll just pick it up. Nope,
Right.
can't do that. Let's see. Will you judge our games? We were going to lead off hard with that. That was actually supposed to be question 1, and I skipped to try and get an intro line.
So, yes.
All right, cool. You
Good.
guys, verbal
Yeah,
contract.
No, I do verbal contract.
We have 11 witnesses.
Right.
I thought you only had 7.
We've grown.
It's growing every
growing?
day. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's exponential. It'll drop back down though. I've been watching our little thing on Spotify. It's like we'll release an episode and it gets way up here, then it
Yeah.
trails off again. It's really fun.
I'm looking forward to your the new comp over at Lloyd's Farm.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. We've already got what 9 people, 10 people signed up.
10 or 10. Yeah.
So it's a sixth of the way full. People get moving. Hopefully that'll. Matt, you run competitions. Does that number tick up close to time or middle of? Okay.
yeah. So
I have no idea what to expect.
for strongman, most people get a 8 to 12 week training block in, but you're not actually going to sign up until you're at least 4 weeks into that training block for most people, because you're going to make sure you're not going to get injured in that amount of time. So like you'll know very early on if you're going to be able to get the numbers that you need to get in comp, and so intelligent people will train, see that it's there or not, and then decide if they're going to go through with
I've
it.
never done it that way, but I'm not intelligent, so that tracks.
Yeah. Highland Games, I have no idea, because the events are, standardized in that sense, so I'm not sure what the amount's going to be.
But we are recruiting a lot of strongmen to come
For sure.
over.
This is going to be an incredibly strong Highland Games.
It may not go
It
far.
might not throw very far, but it'll be a very strong
Me, you,
Highland
and Patty carrying the field,
Right.
and everyone else is at least big.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there'll be a lot of big wob throws. It'll be a weird game for that.
Yeah, it's everyone's throwing 14 plus in wob, but we
right.
had a bunch of 40-foot lightweights.
Exactly. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of people bear paw the caver, because I'm showing them how to do it. So.
You wouldn't know how to pick caber wrong, but still get a turn.
Right.
I've seen it done.
That's all he does.
I tried at Caber and Fireworks to do it the right way, and I just kept messing up. So I decided to do it, the way that turned the biggest caber, and that's.
So Matt,
Did I show you that?
like completely scratched his
seen that
first
yet.
2 throws
Yeah.
because he tried to do a actually
Traditional pick.
yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say correct, but technically, if he's the only one that turned the caber, he's not fundamentally incorrect.
Well,
Yeah, so he tried a traditional pop and catch
Right.
caber pick and dropped the first one pretty quick. The second one was a lot of fun because he walked in circles with it for a while.
You call it
Here's
the bear claw, and
Yeah.
I call it the ninja pick.
Right. Here's the one that I danced with,
Okay.
because I popped
it.
big, and then
Now you run around, do your
Yeah.
pirouette.
I probably could have
Yeah.
kept fighting it, but I decided not to, because I didn't.
Because
care.
it didn't matter.
No,
It
that
didn't
makes sense.
matter.
That's-
But
You were gonna win the game.
yeah, I'll find the one that I actually pulled. Yeah,
Yeah, what'd you throw? Like a 1245?
correct.
We have a whole episode talking about what
We
we
do.
did and didn't do, so I probably shouldn't get into that too much. All right, so you're gonna judge our game. That's fantastic. Speaking of that, what should people? Because you've gotten more and more into the AD space over the past couple of years, right?
I have been starting to help more on staff, especially with Mid-Atlantic Scottish Athletics. This year, nursing an injury with the hernia, I decided to take a complete step back from throwing, and spent almost the whole year so far as staff. But it also helped out because some of our staff members have had to go off and help
Everything happens
family
for
members.
a reason.
So being able to have people you can trust to step in and help
Yeah.
out is fantastic.
Yeah, things. It feels like no matter what competition you're doing, things are always going to go wrong. As far as like the people that are actually trying to run it and the people that are you have for volunteers, people fall through all the time. I should have pulled that a little earlier, but so having people that you can depend on and having kind of a network of people you actually trust has been imperative to running successful comps, at least for the gym. So, and there aren't that many Highland Games people in general, let alone athletic directors or people that can actually run events. So having one that can step in is obviously a big deal for
Even running my own this will be the 4th annual Woodstock this year, which will be in a few weeks. That you learn a lot about all of the administrative stuff that you need to do and keep people organized and being able to get ahead of the questions that people are going to have.
Yeah.
What time do I need to be there? Some of the basic stuff that, as an athlete, we've kind of grown accustomed to and take advantage, or not take advantage of, but
We're used to having it at our
where
disposal.
it's assumed, right? And so now making sure that you can have it all addressed up front.
Okay, so being a guy that is assisted with the AD-esque space and then hosted your own backyard for 4 years now, what should people expect getting into that? Because it's something that I've never done at all. Matt's done from a strongman side. But if someone is planning on putting on a backyard game or helping to run an actual sanctioned game,
Location is a big thing, right? You got to be able to have the space to throw, and if you can keep that organized. One of the things about Whitstock that we've grown over the past couple of years was we have a specific area that we will typically do our stones and weights and hammer at, but a completely different area for caber. And that way we're not trying to dodge potholes and all of the divots and stuff that we've created while throwing. The other aspect of it is your implements, making sure you have enough implements. The implements are in good shape, and they're going to be able to last the day and go through all the athletes. The other part is the ancillary. That's the having a porta potty near your throwing area, because if you don't have a restroom nearby, you need to put a porta potty somewhere out on the field.
yeah.
It's definitely going to help.
Yeah, restroom logistics are something I didn't know I'd ever have to worry about. And having 3 bathrooms in this 3,600 square foot gym felt like more than enough space. But when you have 300 people in here, there were lines all day for 7 hours because 3 isn't enough apparently. So
Good to know. Was that the turnout for Virginia's Strongest?
we had about 250 spectators, 60 athletes, and
Wow.
10 to 15 volunteers.
Okay.
15, yeah, volunteers. So around just over 300 people.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah.
All right, so backtracking, because I'm not doing this in any specific order, because why would I? So when you got into throwing 15 years ago, I know you said the camaraderie spoke to you, but Matt and I are both numbers guys. So you were
I think
around...
you've become a numbers guy.
No. I always was. I just kept it to myself until my numbers were good. I just shut up about it. There's always been a note in my phone. I just wasn't vocal about that. I've always been vocal. But, so you started throwing. Did they have lightweights at games often when you were throwing then?
No, well, not
Okay.
back when I was throwing then.
Okay.
No, I didn't know about a lightweight class at all.
Okay, so you were just throwing opens.
I would throw open class for several years.
How did that start for you? Like, how numbers wise? Like,
Oh, geez.
did you have good events or bad events? Did you have things where you realized, oh, this is going to be more work or more difficult? How did
one
that...
of my favorite things was my very first throw at the Virginia Scottish Games when at my first comp was actually throwing the 56. Had not actually been able to touch a 56 because the only thing I had to play with was a 45-pound kettlebell, and it's still not the same as being in your hand. But I threw it 12 feet.
Right.
Very first game, and what I really enjoyed was that all the other athletes were ecstatic for me for just being able to, one, do a turn, keep my feet, and get a mark.
Right.
Well, then I got invited to Green Hill the following week by Billy Schrader.
Okay.
And so I went down there. Liesl and I went down, and it was a monsoon, pouring rain, but I got a 7-foot PR, threw it 19 feet a week later
In the
Nice.
rain.
Yeah.
in the rain.
Yeah.
So
Who PRs in the rain?
everybody...
Normally.
So it was just one of those things that people helped me. They took me to the side and says, "Here, try this, try this, try this," and it worked. And so then from there, ended up. I'm not a great open thrower. I'm not a great masters thrower. I'm never going to take credit for that. But I always focused on technique, and that's what helped keep me somewhat competitive.
Okay. Good. There's always got to be technical throwers out there.
Eventually, my PR for the 56 was 27 feet.
Yeah. What'd you end up at overall? So, like, before you went masters, or even
Well, I
just
was
in
doing
training, just in
masters
general.
I was doing masters and open
Okay.
both at the same
So
time.
just go over your best throws then, whatever you consider to be.
I was in the mid 50s for lightweight for distance. Been in the low 80s for light hammer, but I really feel like I need to be in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm in my head, I'm still gauging myself as if I was 38 years old, not 54.
Yeah.
So that's my internal battle: is can my body do it?
Well, when you hit 60, you get to throw an even lighter hammer, right? So there you go.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe did it at Dave's game, I think.
Yeah.
He brought a lot of his own implements to throw as a 60-plus master. So, there you go.
Like
6 more years.
Or something.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
So, it makes you look really good. Not that Joe's not a good thrower. I'm not trying to... He did really well.
Stones are never my best. I'm never good at stone. But then I lean on people like Matt
Yeah.
and other throwers like Bo Fay, BJ Ketchum. They were all inspirational to me. Brian McLean. They would help me with my technique and work on things. And then I would just pass it on.
Cool. Let's see. So then how far into it did you figure out your knack for coaching? Because I think that's, from my perspective, how you've been most impactful to the most people in this sport is, for those that don't know, Jerry hosts like group practices very often at his house, and even before he moved to this area, did the same thing.
I did that in Stafford for many years. Yeah, we had a throwing group.
Right?
Sorry?
We have one tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
good.
in the morning.
Just making sure.
Way to go, man.
Yeah.
We weren't doing a thing. Yeah, let's get that straight. What are you doing tomorrow morning?
Yeah, just want to make sure.
Hey, you want to go throw stuff?
Well, yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right.
I'll be there.
I won't, but you guys have fun.
Yeah, in Stafford, I was probably about 5 years in when I started getting all of my own implements. I was traveling up to Northern Virginia, and we had what was called the Vienna Meathead Club. And that was where Bo and John Collins and BJ, Jeff Story, Brian McLean. Brian McLean had all the implements. And then there was a small triangular little field that we would throw at. We would go do wob and stone practices in his front yard.
Right.
Then we would take all the weights and go to this small little pie-shaped field.
Right.
And then throw from there for the rest of the day. That's actually how Caverson Fireworks started.
Yeah.
And then Marble resurrected that down at his place.
Very nice. What was your you said that you started or helped start Covenanter. What was that like?
Yeah, so there was another thrower who was new to the games, Josh Waters, and he wanted to do something along with the Covenanter Church that was in Quarryville, not too far from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And he was helping me one time. I was doing a demo at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair for Celtic Fling.
Yeah.
Back then, we didn't throw both days. We only threw one day, and then we would do a participation demo the second day.
Okay.
Where folks could sign a waiver and come out and try it out. So Josh helped me out with that demo, and then he talked to me about doing this thing in Quarryville. So I was like, all right, well, I have all the implements, so I'll load them up in my truck, and I'll bring them up and help do the score sheets. And then he took care of working with the folks at the church who wanted to host it, because they had a nice ball field.
Yeah.
And so it ended up coming out really well. So I helped him with that for a couple of years, and then Josh got sick, and then he wasn't able to come back to throwing.
Right.
But it's nice to see that that Jason and Kirsty have stepped in and brought that in. Matter of fact, Kirsty just asked me, and I plan on going up there to help judge this year.
Nice. Awesome. I'll be throwing there this year. That was my third. That was my third Highland Games, and that was one where that was the first one that was actually a big festival around it. Because my first one was Jonathan Harding's game, Pulaski, and that was just a
that was athletics
game,
only,
right? That was athletics only. It was behind a YMCA. He had guys with Confederate flag tattoos running around, and
It's Pulaski.
Right, it's Pulaski.
It's Southwest Virginia,
right? And it's like, well, I like the throwing part of this, so that's cool. And then, gosh, I don't even. My second game will come back to me. It was, less meaningful. But the third one for me was Covenanter, and that was a full. I think there were 60 or 70 athletes, right? So the entire field was full. You had vendors and clan booths and all that stuff, where it was actually. It felt like a big deal to be out there on the field. So that was my first exposure to like actual competition in that sense.
It makes a difference going from an athletics only to a full festival.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying last.
Well, we've all forgotten, but at least I've eaten, so we're going to call that a win. Well, then let's just pick up wherever. What else do we have off the list here, Matthew?
I think that might have been everything that we specifically had.
It really was. Jerry, is there anything you wanted to talk about coming on here? Are there any questions you have for us? We could reverse it. We could make you... This was a trap.
Reverse.
We're going to make every podcast about us, not our guests.
That's a successul podcast, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Isn't that most 90% of the podcast?
That's all I've learned from Matt Vincent is everything's about me. But yeah, freeform time. We'll all just rifty raft.
I'm really excited that you two met and have really gotten close as far as your training.
Thank God we don't video this.
Yeah.
Because the way that you guys have been able to assist each other with the different aspects of Matt's formal throwing and your throwing in the Highland Games for several years now, Jeremy. You've been able to show him some pointers and some of the coaching that you've gotten from other people and share that with Matt. So I think this relationship is really cool. You guys have done a great job of helping each other
It's a gorgeous
succeed.
mess.
What you don't hear is that me and Jeremy are actually kissing right now. Because of that.
Yeah, we're slowly undressing
Right.
each other. That actually, so coaching, that was something I wanted to talk to you more about, because, like, is it fair to say that has been, like, kind of your... Are you more passionate about coaching, before I put my foot in my mouth, than you are about throwing at this stage in...
I do love throwing, and I don't plan on giving up throwing. So once I get past the injury, then I'll continue to throw, try and still can throw competitively. Because like I said before, that 38-year-old mind inside of the 54-year-old body is still there.
Yeah.
And so it is being able to still get lifetime PRs is amazing.
Yeah.
I think I was at a Pro-Am in Frederick, Maryland, and I was a master for a good 10 years at least. But I was still getting invited to throw as an AM with the pros, and I was still getting a PR throwing the 56, and that's where I ended up getting a 27-footer. So for me, that was an accomplishment, even though that's nothing to shake a stick at for an open A thrower, right? The open A throwers, they should be throwing it in the 30s anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the personal record kind of thing, or that personal achievement is really what I like. But I really do love the coaching aspect.
Yeah. Because I think from Matt and I's perspective, that's where we see you kind of light up a lot, is when we bring in new throwers. It's really fun to watch.
Being able to grow the sport, right? Seeing new throwers that come in, and when you just watch them naturally move, like you brought Nina over, and she was fantastic.
Yeah.
First day out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what she's going to do at Whitstock.
Right.
It's going to be fun.
And Maggie.
Yep.
Right. Maggie came out very petite, but she was not bashful. She went straight at it.
Yeah.
And was very successful in her first day of throwing.
She doing Whitstock?
No, unfortunately.
Loser.
Yeah.
But
she could gain 50 pounds and still be a lightweight, so.
I like, right?
Actually, more than
Featherweight
that.
division.
She can more than that, right? I really like being able to see and grow the sport, see new athletes. It always comes and goes, right? People get an interest in it. That interest fades.
You get a lot of flash in the pan people in this.
Yes.
In every strength sport, really. And some of them could end up being quite good, and for whatever reason, they're just only interested in it for a year or two, and then...
It's so exciting to see somebody with the potential, and then they actually do it. Like, I've watched you, Jeremy, for the past 5 years at least. And your growth in this sport has been exponential. Not your waistline.
No, that's actually come down.
Same.
This might be the healthiest strength sport you could get into.
I would argue that.
Yeah. Lowest risk of injury. You operate better at a healthy weight instead of doing strongman stuff and packing it on.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that's really fun. I also like to watch people come up in it and not give up. You too can turn pro in 17 years, you know? We both found that out this morning, so we're going to keep making fun of Thor because he's not here to defend himself.
Is there a specific type of athlete that, like how much recruiting do you find yourself actually doing for the sport? I know for me, for strongman, if I'm at a Walmart and I see a guy that's 6'8" and 400 pounds, I'm going to go up and talk to him and say, hey man, what's your sport background? What are you doing Saturday? You know, like, do you find yourself doing any of that? And like, what type of athletes do you look for? I know personally, as a coach, it feeds into my ego when I have guys that are big and tall coming into the gym, because I think that they could have higher, their propensity for greatness is higher, but that's just me wanting to put my name out there as an athlete, right, or as a coach. So that's a personal flaw I have. What do you look for in athletes?
Most of them will end up getting funneled to me.
Right.
There aren't too many that I'll see and just approach. I'm not that I won't.
Right.
But it can come in all shapes and sizes, because you could have somebody short in stature but very, very powerful.
Yep.
And very, very quick. And they'll be able to throw just as good as somebody who's over 6 foot tall or 6'4" and trying to muscle the weight around.
Right.
Right.
Just
So so it depends. Most of the time they get funneled to me. We'll try them out. We'll do a session. Whether they like it, I try not to shy them away or scare them away.
Right.
From a first session. Just
Yeah.
take it easy. Nothing's going to come up. But then you also see some of those people who just have that natural ability. And sometimes you can just look at somebody's body structure or see how they just naturally move, walk, jog, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see whether or not if they're going to perform well or have the propensity to then grow on it.
That's one of the things when I saw Nina for the first time, was like, oh, she looks like Valerie Allman, right?
This checks out.
Right, she looks like the best
She looks
women's
like
discus thrower
most,
we've ever had.
yeah.
So I bet that she could throw weight pretty far.
Yeah, and my mind immediately went to, her height and athleticism and build was volleyball player.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was my background, was volleyball and racquetball.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to leave my opinions out of it.
Good. Yeah, and then or guys like Brandon that come to practice sometimes. He has actually powerlifting meet tomorrow, so he's not coming tomorrow, unfortunately. But unless he makes it after the meet. But anyway,
It's something I would want to do more after a powerlifting meet than throw
go
stuff.
and throw. Yeah, but his arms are just incredibly long, and so for something like the hammer, it's like, oh, this guy could actually throw a good hammer just starting out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's throwing like 1570 his first time doing it, and that's pretty good.
It is. That's very good for a first time, yeah. And they've Josh had come out, and when he did Montpelier, and I think he broke a 70-foot on his hammer too.
He's really been putting in the work, I would imagine. I don't look at Josh and think, oh, that guy is going to be a fantastic thrower, but his numbers have been really improving.
We do a lot of the mental side of stuff, just because we're around each other all the time. So he's forced to watch me watch throwing videos. So
Dude, it's the best thing you can do.
yeah,
I don't know why more people don't do that.
When you're training your brain
Yeah.
to be in sync with your body.
yeah, mental reps really matter.
Yeah, 100%. The best games I've ever thrown are the ones where I get to a hotel room, I'm by myself, and I just think about the throws I'm going to do the next day, and then the competition goes really well. And some of the worst competitions I've had are the opposite of that, where I've been rushed and I just show up on the field and I haven't given it any thought.
Even proper preparation.
Yeah.
Getting there early. Right? Getting there the night before.
If I get there too
Getting
early,
a
y'all
good
make me
night's
set stuff
sleep.
up.
No, I meant getting there like the day before.
Right.
Being able to relax that evening, go to bed at a reasonable hour,
Yeah.
get a good night's rest.
I'd have had even more PRs at Penryn if they had me buy beer somewhere.
Right.
Stupid state.
If nobody PRs at Penryn, but how many PRs did we have at Penryn this year?
Dude, a bunch of WOB PRs.
I'm going to take credit for most
Weight
of
and
those from the
stone
coaching
PRs.
aspect of it, but
Why'd you have to? I wouldn't have had to split a 5-way tie for second if you hadn't coached a bunch of people. God bless. Okay, we did have another thing, and then I added another. So we'll stay on track for this. If you were to build an ideal thrower, what mental side of things would you look for, and then physicality-wise?
mentally, I would look for somebody who's really open-minded, right? That they're not. I really try not to critique every throw when somebody is throwing, because not every throw needs to be critiqued.
Mm-hmm.
In some instances, I think that just the repetition of throwing is going to create that mental and physical synchronization. Occasionally, we'll tweak something, but mentally open-minded, just being able to receive constructive criticism, not get too down on themselves. So they are pretty emotionally stable person.
Ugh. Thank God Matt and I are tall.
From the physical aspect of it, I do have to say that height definitely does have an advantage because it's all lever.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about leverage. And once you get into a power position and are be able to just finish that momentum and keep that arc in orbit, it's going to go.
There's a reason why John Van Buren is one turning, everyone else is two turns.
He's also like 9 feet tall.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
right.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the option to two-turn.
Okay. But like, would you take Ryan Vieira's explosiveness, Dan McKim's mind? Like,
Oh
if
my
we were going to
gosh.
get really nerdy, like, you have the full Marvel Cinematic
And then-
Universe at your disposal here.
Well,
Piece
I think
together
I think you
someone.
hit it on the head right there. Is you got some of the
Yeah,
top
I know what
three
I'm talking.
people,
I've
right?
played this game with myself.
Right, Ryan Vieira, and then you mix in Dan McKim, then you mix in Nate Burchett's hammer speed. I don't know that I've seen anybody do
It's
hammer
insanely
fast
fast.
as Nate Burchett's.
Because it's almost like,
It's
Josh,
like a
if you,
helicopter propeller.
if you walk up to any of the Burchett brothers and look at them, you're like, this is an average guy. They don't jump out at you as they're going to finish top 2 in hammers today against this guy that's
Right.
6'8" and 300 pounds.
And
Like,
then Spencer Tyler, right? Just the drive that he has and the achievements that he's gotten accomplished.
Yeah. I'd actually say that about like Matt Vincent also. Like however you want to feel about the guy, he's hyper focused on whatever he's doing at the moment. Right?
There's
So,
some
like,
great videos out there.
right. Like he's put in the mental energy to be a good thrower when he was a good thrower.
which he had some really good videos about.
Right. Like he's clearly analytical and thinks about it a lot.
Yeah, I enjoy pointing people towards Matt Vincent's videos too.
Yeah.
That's what
so that they can
yeah.
watch them and learn because he does a great job of breaking things down into different sections.
So that actually led me into the next thing I was going to say. Because you have, I'd say, more experience coaching in the Highland Games than Matt or I do. Where would you point new throwers in the direction of? I mean, obviously, find people to throw with is paramount. Because if you're not doing it, you're not doing it. But, like, if you had to give them resources or places to look or people to watch and admire, who would you tell them to seek out?
Definitely Matt Vincent is one of those. When looking at his instructional videos where he's breaking down light wave, even just watching his normal practice videos, and he puts them in slow-mo, and you can see where the low points are on a weight, on a turn. You can see where his feet are positioning. Is he getting his foot around and his hip around, and so he can get into the power position a little bit faster ahead of the weight. All those little tiny cues make a difference. But for a brand new thrower, just being able to fundamentally do the basic turn without falling over, without leaning too much, without trying to muscle it, getting those reps in so that they are comfortable with it. Once they are comfortable with it, then working on the specifics of each different cue.
Okay.
Once they have that foundation to build. But Matt Vincent's a great resource for watching those kinds of videos. There's other YouTube videos out there as well. Mike Beach has several. Mike Beach is a real good coach.
And they're really good bite-sized videos that he's put out. Like, he'll break down just a one turn. And then that's it. You only have to watch a 2-minute video, and you can watch it as many times
And
as
you can
want.
watch it over and over and over until it just kind of sinks in. And then you replicate it yourself out on the field. So you don't necessarily always feel like you're throwing alone.
Yeah.
Because now with the videos, you kind of feel like you're part of this community that's really tight-knit.
Cool. I like that. All right. Now we're going to get into what Matt and I like to do, and that is potentially hurt feelings. So we wrote down what does pro mean to you, and we're going to get to that, but I want to segue into it of what is your opinion, having been in this sport longer than Matt or I, and being significantly more humble than either of us are, on like at C classes, novice classes, B classes, A classes, super A's, pros, like if you now the actual organization of the sport. What do you think is good? What do you think is bad? And what do you think should there be different standards for moving class? Just
I think classifications help grow the sport because it does help get other people included.
Yep.
As obviously, if you're going to take a 6'4", 300-pound guy and try and have him throw against a 160-pound, 5'6" guy, who's going to win.
Yeah.
Right? It's the one guy can just muscle it further than the other one,
If the
even
Bible's
if
to
the
be
other one
believed.
has a technique. So from that aspect of it, it kind of helps level the playing field for class. In any other sport, right? You're going to have different levels. So you have your professional football, collegiate football, high school football, right? So you have these different levels for a reason. As far as getting into the open separations, in some areas I think it helps by having a novice C class and then having a B class, and you work your way out of the B's into the A's. And Shag is a good environment where they really promote that.
Mm-hmm.
And that once you have won a B once or twice, right, then and you've got consistent throws, you are now an A thrower.
Yeah.
Which helps get people to advance themselves. Some people are going to be so timid that they're not going to advance themselves. So by having that class, but if you have the drive, in Mid-Atlantic Scottish Athletics, we don't typically separate it. It's just open class, which I kind of like. I because now the folks who are on the lower end of the throwing spectrum, as far as not having far throws, have goals to become the middle part.
Yeah.
Or then become the top part of the flight.
People tend to break it up in their own mind anyway.
Right.
Because I love on paper the
That's
idea,
the personal achievement aspect.
yeah, of a B and an A for that reason of we're growing the sport and we're involving people. But I have yet to see in an open class where anyone feels like they can't go talk to the people that are winning the events and throwing 20 feet further than them.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so it.
Well, that's the tight knit camaraderie portion of the sport that I see all across, and that's what really got me hooked.
Yeah.
In doing it, and then trying to be able to pay it forward by coaching and developing other people. Then when you get into the master's class, even before I was 40, I was a proponent of masters being 45.
Yeah.
I felt like 40 was kind of a young age to separate the master's class, and it can be disheartening for some masters who are never going to be pro.
Well, and you have
But maybe
people that
they should
also
be pro
got
masters
into the sport at
at a very late age.
39 to 40 years of age, and
Right.
yeah,
I'm a big believer of before somebody should throw masters regularly, that they should also have thrown open class, regardless of your age. Right? Throw open class 1, 2, 3 times. Throw the 56, compete with these guys, and learn and understand where this came from.
Earn your stripes.
That. Yeah,
do you think
earn
it would be
your stripes. That's a
beneficial
good
to
way put it.
actually institute something organization-wise where, like, for Shag, you have to throw over a certain distance or height and win a B game to throw as an A? Do you think it would be feasible to then implement something where it says, okay, you want to throw as a master, what 3 AM games did you throw?
That could be a requirement. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that only because you want to respect where it came from, right? And especially all of the people who came before you that are now doing right. We're throwing the 42 now as masters, so that we can still stay competitive, and we're keeping similar numbers of distances, but we're aged,
Yeah.
so we're not going to be able to. Now you take a 30-year-old and throw the 42, and you take a 54-year-old and throw the 42, right? 2 different
We can go
things.
outside and do it right now. So then that leads me...
Oh, his hernia is acting.
So we'll finish because I want to touch on the pro thing. But do you think the weights are too light? You talked about moving masters to 45 instead of 40, and then there's also I think a big argument to be made from the women's space. The deeper the pool gets over there. So do you think in general at some point our sport is going to be forced to reclassify what we do for...
Possibly. I think the sport needs to grow a little bit more before that can be split out.
Okay.
Like, for example, a good caveat could be that the elite women, I love that class is now breaking out and becoming a much bigger class. But would it be fair for them to throw the 35, for example, instead of the 28?
I think
Just speculation,
yeah.
right?
Right.
But it's also one of those things where you have lightweight men and heavyweight men. Okay, so if you're going to do under 200, well, maybe lightweight men should still throw the 56. They're just competing on themselves, still throwing the 56. And that the 42 doesn't come into play until the age bracket comes
Yeah.
into play, not a weight class. So there's different ways to look at it. I'm not opposed to the lightweight men throwing the 42 now. It's because we are growing the sport.
Or when we get deep enough, why not have 3 different weight classes? Why not have a light, a middle, and a heavy?
And a heavy.
You know? And to have your 180 to your 220 guys still throw the 56, and your 180 sub guys.
And that's what they do in
throw
strongman,
42.
right?
You know?
And in powerlifting.
Yeah, but even in the sport of strongman, like not to say the middleweights aren't impressive human beings, but like there's no like financial opportunity for them, and there's limited competition. One of the worst things you can do as a woman in strongman is go pro, because it means that you won't compete ever again unless you're good enough to go to the Arnold's, unless you have enough money to travel across country to the 1 or 2 comps that they have a year. Like you're still not making money even as a professional at that point. So if you start, like if we make pro middleweight men, I know one of the things that
I'm not even saying, I think leave the pro class
Right.
alone.
right.
And call them middleweights, but they'd still throw the 56, so you
Yeah.
don't have to mess up flights or
Right.
anything like that. It would strictly be used for ranking purposes.
I still struggle with the idea of weight classes in general, even in Highland Games, because you have guys like Scott Farr that are throwing hammers 143 feet and are under 200 pounds, right? Like that are throwing 50 plus foot open stones and are under 200 pounds, right? So it's
yeah, we just eliminate the weight classes and
Right.
tell everyone to get better.
right. Are you throwing this far because of your body weight, or are you a bad thrower? You know, like it's because there are lots of the top 10 lightweight guys, the guys that just threw at Alaska, would kick ass at pro games still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's an argument to be made for, they should be throwing, they should have a lightweight pro, but also couldn't they just be super A's or pro? Like Scott Ford should just be a pro.
Yeah, that's fair. We don't have to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I thought it was nice to pick someone else's brain because I know Matt and I talk about this a lot.
I'm opinionated.
Yeah, I think the separations do help, and I think that eventually we may be able to break it up into more. But the sanctioning bodies of each region kind of need to all come together and be able to do it similarly. Like
Good luck with
Atlantic
that.
Scottish Athletics versus SHAG versus GLSAA or and they're all valid sanctioning bodies, right? It's we have to have these in order to be able to keep the sport growing. But this is a very fast growing sport now.
Because I would say the Backyard Rebellion and the No Fame games have had a lot of success not having those governing bodies. But that's a conversation for another day. All right, back to it. Pros. What do you think of our sports system of you just declare it? Do you think there should be minimums? Do you think it should be reevaluated often? Do you think anything should be done differently than the way it is now? And what does a pro athlete look like to you?
The pros, I think, should be the definite elite of the ones that are throwing out of any class, regardless if it's men or women. And so if you were to take the top 10 amateurs and create a pro, like let's say there wasn't a pro, you're going to have to create a pro league somewhere. So yes, there's a dividing line to say, okay, well, let me take the top 10, top 20, top 30, whatever, amateurs and say, okay, you guys are now pros. As far as being able to declare a pro, I kind of like that method because now it's a personal decision.
Okay.
And you're not forced into doing this, because I do know that there's some regions where there are throwers who don't go pro because they won't be able to travel to some of these games, and the region that they're in don't have a lot of pro invites.
Games. But they can stay busy throwing his
But they
aims.
can definitely stay busy and productive, and we're also part of the entertainment of these festivals. So to me, the pro is also the epitome of the sportsmanship and the entertainment aspect to the crowd, and that they need to represent and be a part of it.
Yeah. You're getting paid to be there.
Yeah. Yes,
So-
you are getting paid to be there. But if you end up acting like an ass, you may not be invited back.
Matt. Right. I'm just calling it early.
You know
Before
what,
Matt
I
ever actually
can't-
goes pro, I'll just...
I could, knowing Matt now for about a year, I guess.
Yeah.
I could never see that.
he'd be fine. Unless he
Jeremy,
starts
on the
doing a
other
lot of...
hand-
Yeah.
No.
No, there's...
Let's
I can
see.
throw
You've
7,200
been throwing-
points tomorrow. I'm not
You've been
getting an
throwing about
invite.
6 years. You got 11 years to go before you can
Yeah, give or
declare.
take. If we take the
Right.
Thor path. The Giffelson model.
Right.
God, we are being really mean to someone who is a genuinely nice person
Yeah.
for this whole episode. This is why I'm not good.
I'll never listen to it anyway.
No, fair.
Right.
Translated into Icelandic.
Right.
Anything else? Jerry, was there anything you were hoping we'd talk about that we hadn't gotten to? Was there anything you wanted to use this massive platform?
All 11 listeners.
Yeah. Nothing?
So, no, I can't
Matthew,
think
you
of
got
anything.
anything else?
Not really.
No?
Yeah.
Cordell, you good? All right. Then I think that wraps it up. I think all I have to do now is edit.
Yeah.
Matt, would you like to send us out on a funny noise?